Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Fresno State Dynasty. This isn't a gameplay episode. This episode is a seasonal update. We are 4 games into the year and I want to try to give you these little updates of what's going on in the Dynasty every 4 weeks or so, just to give you an idea what kind of chaos is taking place in the season, or what's going on with recruiting, how are the players doing, who's ahead for the Heisman Trophy, so on and so forth. 4 games into the year and Mikey Keene has already eclipsed 1,200 yards passing. Since I am throwing the ball a lot with him, it's no surprise there. Currently 62 completion percentage, 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Hopefully I can fix my mistakes and keep him from throwing a billion picks before the season's over. As far as the rushing totals, at this moment, Malik Sherrod, our senior running back, I didn't realize he was a senior until recently. Currently at 295 rushing yards. Our next game, he should eclipse that total. At least I think he would. He does have 4 rushing touchdowns on the year. Mikey Keene, meanwhile, has 4 rushing touchdowns himself, with 220 yards rushing on 74 carries. That carries total is pretty high, but that's mostly because of the sacks he's been taking. And then you have Jonathan Arsenault, who's the only other running back so far on the roster that's been used. We have like 50 running backs. Like, we have Gilliam, for example, who I haven't used at all, who is a senior. I'll probably try to use him more, utilize what he can do. I'll just have to pay attention more. We got all these running backs on the roster, I might as well use them. For the receiving total, currently leading the team in receptions is Malik Sherrod at 29 receptions, but leading the team in receiving yards is Jalen Moss, 492 receiving yards total on 23 receptions, 5 receiving touchdowns to Malik Sherrod's 2 receiving touchdowns on 250 yards receiving. Jake Bose has 18 receptions on 195 receiving yards and 1 touchdown himself. Mac Delina, 12 receptions, 152 yards receiving, and 1 receiving touchdown. Raylan Sharp, 5 receptions only, 131 receiving yards, and a touchdown. And last, we have Jonathan Arsenault, who is on 3 receptions, 6 yards, and no touchdowns. Now for blocking, we have the sacks allowed, which Jacob Bomber, I don't know how I'm pronouncing it, in 4 games has given up 8 sacks. Viveo has given up 5, Velez has given up 4, Nelson has given up 3, and Polendo has given up 2. It's quite a few sacks. I'm hoping they can correct that. I know the downs play is quite large to the sack total, but in 4 games, we have given up a lot of sacks. I'll probably tally the amount of sacks here on screen and give you a post-edit total up to this point in 4 games. But I am hoping we can correct this and get, stop giving up so many sacks. Now for defensive statistics, we have Cameron Braca leading the team in tackles, but only by 2. There's Dean Clark, who has 42 tackles himself. Julian Neal at 39 tackles, which I'm not surprised considering they are not afraid to throw at my cornerbacks, specifically Neal and Williams. So every time they get the ball thrown their way, they usually have to make the tackle, which, as you can see, Neal has had to make a ton, but he does have 1 pick to his name this season. Meanwhile, Phoenix Jackson has 33 tackles himself with an interception. Malachi Langley has 26 tackles on the year. Jalen Williams has 25 tackles and a pick that resulted in a pick 6. The start of our current trend, where every week we get at least 1 defensive touchdown, which, I mean, heck, I take it. I believe someone had a fumble defensive touchdown. I forgot who it was. I believe it was... Who had the fumble recovery? Someone had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. I think it was Cam Lockridge. I'm not sure. Not really sure right now. I have to go back, look at the footage. Moving on, you have Corey Foreman, who has 22 tackles on the year. He's only tallied a half sack, which is pretty disappointing, I have to say. I'm hoping he can turn it around this midway stretch through the year, these next 4 games, and start tallying up some sacks, but we'll just have to wait and see. Next, it's Jacob Holmes, who has gotten 19 tackles. caused 2 sacks. He's been a bit of a disruptor. He's forced fumbles. He's recovered fumbles. He's done some pretty good work in the trenches. I like what he's done so far. Al Zillion Hamilton, 18 tackles. No picks yet, but he hasn't really seen consistent playing time. He's been always the second, third, fourth string corner on the depth chart. Maybe he'll get more playing time this season. Who knows? It really depends on how the team is performing, who's playing well, who isn't, where guys are going to be moved up on the depth chart. Gabriel Lightfoot has 17 tackles and 2 sacks on the year. Given my Illinois Dynasty, I am kind of used to having dominant defensive tackles. So having like 4 tackles up to this point is kind of disappointing. But I am not disappointed that it's my defensive tackles leading the team in sacks. Either tied in sack total or whatever. I am kind of used to it up to this point, so go figure. Next, you have Maverick Roos, who has 14 tackles up to this point. No picks so far. He is a pass coverage tendency middle linebacker, so I'm hoping he'll start racking up the interceptions at some point. Devo Bridges only has 11 tackles and a sack and a half. He has been a bit banged up this year. Him and Foreman have been a bit banged up. At least I recall it was Foreman for most part. So hopefully they start getting healthier as the season winds on. Hopefully they can stay healthy. And then last one I want to point out total is Jaden Davis, who has gotten 11 tackles and a pick in last game. His first pick of the year against New Mexico. Now I want to go over the pick total because I think this should be interesting. In one game, Jamarian Briggs has already usurped the team leader in interceptions with 3. All that were brought back for pick 6. He basically became Deron Bland for a single game. And it's funny, his tackle total is so minuscule because that was his first major game of action. That was his first game of real action, and he got 3 picks so far. I don't know if he'll ever get another pick 6, but I would be more than welcome to see him get a few more this year. Next up on the list is Julian Neal, who has a interception himself. I believe he got a pick in the red zone. Phoenix Jackson, he has a pick himself. Jalen Williams, he has a pick. I believe that was a pick 6 against UL Monroe. Jaden Davis, a pick that went back for 26 yards. And Cam Lockridge, our senior zone corner, also had an interception that he took back for a pick 6. So my zone corners are doing a marvelous job so far with the amount of playing time they are now getting. I just hope they can keep up this momentum during the season. I'm not asking for another 4 pick 6 game, but I'd be really satisfied if they can average like 1 interception a game each. Lockridge gets 1 pick, Briggs gets 1 pick, so on and so forth. Last but not least, time for the most embarrassing stat on this team right now is my inability to make fucking kicks. Dylan Lidge, who is 2 for 6 right now, when he probably should be somewhere around 4 for 6, he is 2 for 6 on 33% field goal kicking. Very embarrassing on my part. Honestly, I just need to be a little more locked in when taking these kicks. I can be very lackadaisical because I'm just so used to other games and their kicking meters and such that I do end up screwing myself, shooting myself in the foot, and it can cost us at some point. So I gotta really get that sorted. But this shouldn't last forever. A 2 for 6 start to the year shouldn't be the fate for Lynch. Verdugo has had 13 punts so far, which between 4 games isn't actually that bad. I am playing 8-minute quarters, so 13 punts, really good. Especially because last game we just chewed the clock so much that he didn't have to punt a lot. He probably punted a total like 3 times compared to punting like 10 times the first 3 games of the year. As for kick return, not really much to speak of because what's been happening lately is I don't really get good blockers downfield. So because of that, I've kind of given up on the idea of let me try and take this back for a kick 6. I just let the ball bounce into the end zone. If it like reaches the goal line, I let it bounce in the end zone and start at the 25. Better to start at the 25 than to start at the 17. That's more work that I have to do. However, I think I might be able to get a punt return touchdown sooner than a kick return, but it doesn't look much better. You know, 6 returned punts for 30 yards total. Not really interesting up to this point, but it is what it is. So those are the season stats so far with the team. I am looking forward to see how the season continues to progress. It's just a wait and see approach right now. Taking a look here, these are the team stats for the season. 4 games in, you have Georgia Tech leading the entire nation in total yards on off, 2,121 yards, most of it coming through the air with over 1,600 yards, 415 on the ground, and 13 passing touchdowns to 7 rushing touchdowns, and accumulated 69 first downs. As for Hawaii, they are in second place. LSU is in third place while being ranked 13 in the nation. Liberty is at 1,700 yards of total offense. Miami stands at 1765. They actually haven't reached double digits in either passing touchdowns or rushing touchdowns, which I find very interesting, but they are now 3-1 on the year and ranked 22nd. The Colorado Buffaloes, they have reached 15 passing touchdowns to 7 rushing touchdowns and are almost at 1,760 yards of total offense. We are in the top 10. This high-powered offense that I'm trying to implement with this team is working out quite well in terms of yardage and first down totals. I just hope that we can fix this passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. I think we should have more in terms of both. We should have over 10 rushing touchdowns. We should have over 10 passing touchdowns, but we'll just have to wait and see this upcoming game. We have 8 more games for the year. We should be able to make the stat total look much better, but for the most part, I am happy to see we are in the top 10 in terms of total yards on offense. We are in second place in terms of total points per game. We have been a scoring machine since week 2, or our second game of the year against UL Monroe. Having to get over 35 a game or something like that has looked really nicely so far. We are only behind Ohio State in leading the nation in points. Looking at the defense, shield your eyes. We actually are dead last in yards allowed. We are the worst defense right now statistically, giving up the most yards total. And I think that's the same case. It's the case in both rushing yards and passing yards. We have been very sluggish to start the year on defense, but I think after last game, that should change things from here. We have also given up the most points this season. Players of the week, we got Jamarian Briggs here as National Defensive Player of the Week with the 3 interceptions for 3 pick 6. Conference Defensive Player of the Week, Jamarian Briggs also won it there. And you have in week 2, Jalen Williams and Jalen Moss. Jacob Holmes actually had Player of the Week for the first game against Old Dominion. Oh yeah, check it out here. National Offensive Player of the Week was Jalen Moss. Right now we are 1-0 in conference play, 2-2 on the year, and we're in second place only behind the Air Force Falcons. They are going to be a difficult team considering their option scheming. Behind us is Boise State in third place, Colorado State in fourth, Hawaii is in fifth, Nevada followed 6th, followed by San Diego State in 7th, UNLV is 8th, Utah State at 9th, Wyoming 10, New Mexico at 11, San Jose State at 12. That's the conference standings so far. Right now in the top 25, you have Georgia in first place. They're going to play number 9 Alabama. That should be That should be game of the week without question. Next is Michigan in second place, number 2. Number 3 in the nation is Ohio State after dominating Marshall 56-21. Their next opponent is Michigan State. Should be a snooze fest, honestly. Followed by the Utah Utes in fourth place. That is a surprise that I was not expecting. Oregon is behind them at number 5, probably because they didn't play last week. They are opening, I think, conference play against UCLA. Number 6, you have Penn State. NC State currently stands at number 7. Kansas State is number 8. Number 9, Alabama, as I mentioned earlier. Oklahoma State sits at number 10. Tennessee follows them at 11. Missouri 12. LSU 13. Washington 14. Ole Miss 15. And just looking at the rest of the conference. And then this is the rest of the top 25. Schools like UCF, Wisconsin, and Colorado, along with Miami, all just barely making it in after last week. The other information as far as top 25 goes, other teams that have received votes have been Oklahoma, Kentucky, Boston College, the Rutgers, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Iowa State, Virginia Tech. Those are all schools that are currently not in the top 25 but have received votes to be placed in it. And who had been currently dropped from the rankings was Clemson, Oklahoma, SMU, and Michigan State. Oh, there's one. There's what I was looking for. Looks like, from the looks of it, this is the first upset of the Dynasty so far. USF went on the road, faced off against Alabama, and beat them by a field goal. Do we want to call this an upset? I think we have to. The game is pretty crazy with the upsets. Now I understand what they're talking about. That is insane that a Quinn Ewers Texas team couldn't outscore the UTSA Roadrunners. And they have started the year off undefeated at 4-0. That is crazy. Here's another upset. Week 3 was going crazy with the upsets. Put this in your crack pipe and smoke it. Boston College on the road outscored Missouri 45-31. A top 15 school in the nation got outscored by rando Boston College. Crazy stuff. I wonder if Doug Flutie is back on the program. Maybe he's starting at quarterback. If you know, you know. But yeah, that's it for now with the update for this one. Next episode, we'll be playing UNLV, the UNLV Rebels. That'll be our second conference game. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Catch you on the next one. Y'all be safe out there. Have a good one.